तस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for being here. So we are reading from Bhagavad Gita. First 10 shlokas we did. So initially, first shloka, Dhritarashtra was asking what happened when my sons and sons of Pandu they assembled, and then Sanjay, who could see what is happening in the battlefield, he narrated how Duryodhan goes to Dronacharya and he starts speaking. Duryodhan talks about how Pandava's army is arranged by son of Drupad, and they have very powerful generals in the army of Pandavas, similar to Bhima and Arjun. And then he narrated their names, and thereafter he said, but in our army also we have a lot of powerful generals, and he named them. So he did all of this, and he's encouraging that all of you should give full support to Bhishma. So we are going to read from 11th shloka. So please repeat after me. Ayaneshu cha sarveshu
आयनेषु च सर्वेषु
यथा भागम अवस्थिता
यथा
यथा
भागम्
भागम्
अवस्थिताः
अवस्थिता
भीष्ममेवाभिरक्षन्तु
भीष्ममेवाभिरक्षन्तु
सन्तु
भवन्तः सर्व एव हि.
भवन्तः
भवन्तः
सर्व
सर्व
एव हि।
Okay, who will volunteer for reading the translation and puppet? Anybody is available to read?
I can do this.
Yes, please.
Let me move that. So all of you must now give full support to Grandfather Bhishma as you stand at your respective strategic point of entrance into the phalanx of the army.
Yeah. So Duryodhan is now saying that everybody should give full support to Bhishma as you are at your strategic point. So there is a strategy which is made, who will stand where in the army, how they are going to fight, and the point he is reiterating is you should go give full support to Bhishma, like that. So Alokji, will you be able to read the purport also?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I can't see. I see the.
Okay, 1 second.
Okay, I can see it now.
Okay.
Duryodhana, after praising the powers of Bhishma, further considered that other might think that they had been considered less important. So, in his usual diplomatic way, he tried to adjust the situation in the above words. He emphasized that Bhishma Deva was undoubtedly the greatest hero, but he was an old man, so everyone must especially think of his protection from all sides. He might become engaged in the fight, and the enemy might take advantage of his full engagement on one side. Therefore, it was important that other heroes not leave the strategic position and allow the enemy to break the phalanx. Duryodhana clearly felt that the victory of the Kurus depend on the presence of Bhishmadev. He he was confident of the full support of Vishnudev and Dronacharya in the battle because he well knew that they did not even speak a word when Arjuna's wife Draupadi, in her helpless condition, had appealed to them for justice while she was being forced to appear naked in the presence of all the great generals of the family. Although he knew that the two generals had some sort of affection of the Pandavas, he hoped that these generals would now completely give it up as they had done during the gambling performance.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here it is clearly mentioned that Duryodhan was very diplomatic and he was thinking, I have put some of our generals and named few of them. So I've emphasized on Drona, Bhishma, Karna, and all of these. But I want to give importance to everybody. So he's saying you are all also very important. So you must support Bhishma because he may get busy, he's old man, he may get busy, and we have to think about his protection also. So he was encouraging and showing value to the people. So he was very clever and he was using all these clever strategies for um, for getting his own means taken care. He was envious and selfish from that perspective. So sometimes we see that people may be clever, intelligent, but how they are using their cleverness, intelligence, or diplomatic skills, that determines what substance they are made of, how they are really value to the society versus how they are actually selfish. So these values we can see were lacking in Duryodhan because he was previously also we read how he was feeling very happy that so many people have come and gathered to give up their life for me. And now we see that he is encouraging them by these words. So in purport, it's explained by Prabhupada here that he is trying to give importance to everybody now. That hey, you are also important. You should be in your strategic positions. Don't leave those positions and support Bhishma. The other aspect he was saying is that in the gambling match previously, we know from Mahabharata how Duryodhan was able to get away with gambling match and not as much opposition was there because both Bhishma and Drona, they were actually bound to respect the king, and king was Dhritarashtra. Since the king was not opposing any of that, Bhishma had taken a vow that he will always keep himself under the king. So this is the vow he took when his father, who desired to marry Satyavati, Satyavati's father had given this condition that before you marry Satyavati, you have to give this word that Satyavati's son will become the king and not Bhishma. So the father of Bhishma could not say that because he had already appointed Bhishma. But then Bhishma himself decided, okay, I'll give up the kingdom, I will not become the next king. In fact, I will not have any children who can claim the kingdom. So I'll not become a king, I will always be subservient to the king, and I will not have any children, so there will never be any opposition from my end. So this way he secured, and the father of Satyavati got confidence that he is genuine, and then he agreed to the marriage of Satyavati with Shantanu, who was the father of Bhishma. So because of all those vows, he was bound and he could not oppose what was going on. And Drona was also subservient at that time in that sense to the king. So it was breaking of an etiquette, but that breaking of an etiquette was actually better than having exploitation of a simple lady who's actually even a queen. So it's a very, very horrible thing what happened. So that is something which Drona and Bhishma had not opposed. So he was thinking that even here in the battlefield he'll get away with things and they will not oppose, and in fact they'll cooperate and do the fighting for him. So this is all what is going on in Drona's mind. Does it make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go to the next shloka. Any questions anybody has before we go forward? Okay, we'll go to 12th. तस्य संजन्नयन् हर्षं तस्य संजन्नयन् हर्षं कुरु वृद्ध पितामहा
Guru Vridha
Vruddha
Pitamaha
Pitamaha
सिंहनादन् विनिद्योच्चये
Simhanadam
Simhanadam Vinadyuchay
Pratyucha
शङ्खं दद्मौ प्रतापवान्.
Sangham
Shankham Dadmau Pratapavan.
Pratapana.
Okay, any volunteers who would like to read the translation?
Yes, I can.
Yes, please.
Then Bhishma, the great valiant grandsire of the Kuru dynasty, the grandfather of the fighters, blew his conch shell very loudly, making a sound like the roar of a lion, giving Duryodhan joy. Purport. The grandsire of the Kuru dynasty could understand the inner meaning of the heart of his grandson Duryodhan, and out of the natural compassion for him, he tried to cheer him by blowing his conch shell very loudly, befitting his position as a lion. Indirectly, by the symbolism of the conch shell, he informed his distressed grandson Duryodhana that he had no chance of victory in the battle because the Supreme Lord Krishna was on the other side. But still, it was his duty to conduct the fight, and no pains would be spared in the connection. In that connection, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here he is talking all these things, Duryodhan, and Bhishma, he is just focused on what needs to be done. And he knows he's in a situation, Bhishma knows he's in a situation where it's his duty to conduct this fight because of how destiny has unfolded. Even though he had no desire to fight, but now he had to, and he's like, let's get to work. And he's, blowing his conch shell, which is the shankha. So shankha, we we blow shank just before the arti in the temple. So arti means we are actually doing an offering to the Lord. We are doing something which is for dharma. So when a fight was happening in those days, in that situation also, a kshatriya has to see this fight should be in accordance with dharma, and then the kshatriya has to do his duty, and both parties had to evaluate this, whether I am doing it for dharma or not. And Pandavas, in this case, we see they evaluated, they tried to avoid, and in fact Arjun again will have this introspection whether it's the right thing or not. But Duryodhan, he was adamant and he did not evaluate that. However, Bhishma, he was focused, he blew his conch shell. Now that obviously meant Duryodhan is thinking, oh, I have spoken in such a nice way that now Bhishma is inspired to fight. So Duryodhan will be joyful in that way. And of course Bhishma, he is feeling, I have to get on with work and do this as this is my dharma and duty at this point. And of course, in one sense, he had the affection for both Pandavas and Kauravas, and even though he did not agree with Duryodhana's means, but he was aware that being the son of the king, he had to be subservient to the king and be subservient to the desires of Duryodhan in this particular situation. So he blew the conch shell. Any questions, comments, any points anybody would like to share in this regard?
I have a question.
Yes.
So Vishnu Pitamaha is known as, like you were explaining, is very wise and dedicated and this and that. But why is he knowing that the grandson is problematic, is supporting it? If I missed, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I shared a little bit that Duryodhan was actually not the person one should follow. But because Bhishma had taken a vow in the past that he will always be obedient to the desire of the king, and he will never revolt or oppose against it. So he wanted to stick to that vow, and even though he was trying to convince Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan in his own manner, he could not go against the will because he had taken a vow. So at that situation, he had to continue this. From another perspective, Bhishma was a great devotee of Krishna, and he understands that whatever situation I am put in is actually by the arrangement of Lord. And even though some vows were taken in the past, it is all my destiny right now. And in this situation, this is how the Lord wants me to fight. And that's why he was agreeable to make Lord's desire as his own desire. So many times in our life, this situation may happen. We may be in a situation where we don't know how we landed up, and we try to do our own means to avoid such a situation. But then we have to face it. And when we face it, understanding that, hey, this is somehow or the other I am put in this situation, I have to face this, and we pray to the Lord that I am offering whatever efforts I am doing is for you, and go through that situation, then that same situation becomes an offering to the Lord. So we see that in this particular situation, even though Bhishma did not want to be in, but he understood that Krishna wants him to continue in this way, he went forward. In fact, when he was fighting with Arjun and there were exchanges of arrows, then some of the arrows from Bhishma were piercing the body of Krishna. Now somebody may think, Arey, what kind of a devotee is this? He's piercing the body of the Lord. But actually, because he had so much love for Krishna, Krishna was accepting all those arrows like a flower garland or a flower is being offered to the Lord. He was more pleased by Bhishma's arrows than by a flower of somebody who doesn't have love for Krishna. He will accept both. He will accept the flowers and he'll accept the arrows too. But when there is love, then the acceptance is to a larger extent. Somebody may send you a gift or a card just in an official or in a formal way. But then when someone gives you with love and with real desire something, then you have much higher value for that, because love is a higher force. Just like a mother, she will be very eager to go through the inconveniences which are caused by a small baby because she has love for the baby. If it's her own baby, then she will clean the baby nicely, take care of the baby nicely. If somebody else's baby, that same feeling may not necessarily happen, because the love for the own child is natural and it comes. So that love is the higher force. Does it make sense?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else would like to share any thoughts on that? Okay, so we'll go to the next. So we read this one, right? Yeah. Please repeat. Tata shankascha bhairyascha
तथा संकाश च भैर्यश्च
पानवानक गोमुखा
पानवानक गोमुखा
सहस्यैवाभ्यहन्यन्त
सहस्रवाभ्यहन्यन्त
सशब्दस्तुमुलो भवात्.
सशब्दस्तु मूलो अभवत्.
Who will read the translation? Any volunteers?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yes, Rakshita Mataji.
Yeah, Prabhuji. 14th, है ना Prabhuji?
13.
13. Okay. After the conch shell, drums, bugles, trumpets, and horns were all suddenly sounded, at the combined sound was, I don't know how
Tumultuous.
to say it, tumultuous. Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So after Bhima blow his conch shell, it's like a festival, like many times we see a sport happening like cricket or soccer or baseball, and then there'll be musicians there, there'll be cheerleaders, there'll be different people dancing, and they'll be motivating and inspiring. So similarly, in those days, Kshatriyas, for them, the real sport was to fight for the right cause, fight for dharma, and they were looking forward to it. When Kshatriyas will decide to fight, it is not that they are sitting in a bulletproof chamber with everything, and then they are pressing a button or asking soldiers to go. Right now, this is how it happens. The president or prime minister who takes the decision of war, they are themselves protected, and they let the poor soldiers go and fight. But in those days, those who were kings were going in the front line. So usually the fights will be less common, the wars will be less common. Why? Because they knew they had to put their own life on the stake. So when they will go in for dharma, they will actually go in with full force, and it will be a sport. They will want to show their skills, they will show how nicely they can overcome the other party. And they used to have it in a sports manner, in which there'll be musicians, there'll be trumpets, bugles, horns, everything will be there, and it was a tumultuous sound at that time. Okay, we'll continue to read. Any comments anybody has before we go forward? Okay, so we'll go to 14. Tata shveterhayeryukte
Tata
श्वेतैर्हयैर्युक्ते
महति स्यन्दने स्थितौ
Mahati
महति
Sandhane
स्यन्दने
Stitau
स्थितौ
माधवा पाण्डवाश्चैव
Madhava
माधवा
Pandavascha
पाण्डवश्चैव
दिव्यौ शङ्खौ प्रदद्मतुः.
दिव्य शङ्खौ प्रदधमतौ.
Any volunteers for reading this translation and purport?
I would like to read.
Yes, please. You can see the
Krishna and
screen there,
Arjuna.
yeah,
Yes.
on the other side.
On the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna, stationed on a great chariot drawn by white horses, sounded
There.
transcendental chords.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So now the camera has moved from what was happening in Duryodhana's camp, and now the camera has gone towards the other side. And who is it focused on now? Two people.
Krishna and
Krishna and
Arjun.
Arjun. So now they are saying Krishna and Arjun. And where are they situated? On what kind of a place are they stationed?
On white horses, chariot by
They are,
white horses.
so they are on their own Rath, and in the Rath, Krishna is the charioteer, the Sarathi, and Arjun is the warrior behind Krishna. And what kind of horses are there? They're white horses. Okay, we'll read the purport. So who will read? Mahira, you want to continue reading purport? Or somebody? Is she there? Okay. So if somebody else wants to read?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yes, please. Thank you. In contrast.
In contrast with the counsel blown by Vishnu, the counsel in the hands of Krishna and Arjuna are described as transcendental. The sounding of transcendental Kaushal indicated that there was no hope of victory for the other side because Krishna was on the side of Pandavas. Uh, Jayas to Pandu Pustanama. Yes, I'm sorry, I'm having.
Yeah, I'll read that.
Can you read that
Jayastu
actually, please?
Pandu Putra Nam Yesham Pakshe Janardana.
Yassatu Pandu Pustana Yesa Pasektasana. Victory is always with person like the son of Pandu because Lord Krishna is associated with them. And whatever and whenever the Lord is present, the goddess of fortune is also there because the goddess of fortune never lives alone without her husband. Therefore, victory of fortune were awaiting Arjuna, as indicated by the transcendental sound produced by the counsel of Vishnu or Lord Krishna. Beside that, the chariot on which both the friends were seated had been donated by Agni, the fire god, to Arjuna, and this indicated that this chariot was capable of conquering all sides whenever it was drawn over the three worlds.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So now the camera has moved towards Krishna and Arjun, who are seated on a rath with white horses. And now what did they do? They blew their conch shell. So basically, first Bhishma, who's the basically the eldest amongst everybody, he is blowing, indicating that war is going to start, and their party starts. Musician starts doing drums, bugles, trumpets, and then Arjun and Krishna. So Krishna was basically whom everybody was following on this party of Pandavas, and he is blowing around with Arjun. So seeing that, others will also start blowing in subsequent shlokas. So in purport, Prabhupada is mentioning that their Shankh is specifically mentioned as Divya. Divya means transcendental. Divya means not ordinary. Divyau Shankau. So their Shankh is very special. And this speciality is pointed out by Prabhupada, which indicates here by saying Divya that Krishna is actually on the side of Arjun. So where will victory go? It will be on the side of Pandavas. And what is victory? Victory is one of the opulences. Whose opulence? Krishna's opulence. So here Krishna is Narayan and Lakshmi is always with Narayan. Lakshmi is the representation of fortune, goddess of fortune. So here it is mentioned that goddess of fortune never lives alone without her husband. So that's why here it is mentioned that Madhava, Krishna is referred to as Madhava. What is the meaning of Madhav? Madhav means husband or of the goddess of fortune. So Krishna is actually the master, the controller of everything, and goddess of fortune, she is one of Krishna's energies, and that energy of Krishna is basically represented as his wife, which is what is highlighted, that victory and fortune are awaiting Pandavas because Krishna is on their side. So even the last shloka of the Bhagavad Gita, which is spoken by Sanjay also confirms this, that where there is powerful fighter like Arjun and where there is supreme lord like Krishna, then victory will certainly be there. So that made Dhritarashtra kind of broke his heart. But that's how the fact is. Initially Dhritarashtra was warned that if a war happens, then it will be devastating. And at that time, because Dhritarashtra was not wanting to give away his kingdom. Even a small part of the kingdom he didn't want to give away. So he used to just give an excuse that, well, if destiny has war in there, I cannot do much. If destiny has war, then whatever is there in the destiny is going to happen. But now, when war is coming and it is clear that destiny is favoring the Pandavas, so then Dhritarashtra is feeling, oh my god. So that is something which we should learn from the example of Dhritarashtra. Not to give an excuse of destiny and not to procrastinate or avoid taking appropriate steps at the right time. Dhritarashtra avoided it. He did not actually nurture, groom, train Duryodhan and the other Kauravas in a proper manner. He did not actually discipline them, and that actually came and bit him later on when they grew up and their demands were even more extreme than what Dhritarashtra was thinking. In the last line, it is mentioned here that the chariot of Arjun was very special actually. It was not an ordinary chariot. This was a chariot given to him by Agni Dev. So I'll tell a little story. Anybody wants to hear how Arjun got this chariot from Agni Dev?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Sure. Sure.
So once Krishna and this was way before all of this. So Pandavas were given a part of the kingdom called as Khandav Prastha. So after graduating and after a lot of things happened, finally Dhritarashtra decided that okay, I'll divide the kingdom. This was before the gambling match. Okay, I will divide the kingdom and give a part of the kingdom to the Pandavas. But the part of the kingdom given to Pandavas was a very bad part of the kingdom. It was not having proper land where they can grow agriculture or a lot of people were living. It was kind of having some forest area, and some of the area was not good for growing or cultivating, maybe like a desert or very very deserted. So not so much activities were there. So this is like in modern day, if you see a big industrialist is there and he divides his businesses. He has so many different businesses. He has a conglomerate of factories and a lot of businesses, and he divides and gives all the flourishing factories or businesses to one son and totally bankrupt factories to another son. That will be so unfair. Something like this happened where Dhritarashtra gave a very very small and not significant part of the land to the Pandavas. But Pandavas, because they were always very much in connection with Krishna and they were approaching Krishna in different situations to get guidance, they were guided by Krishna, and the same land which was very very deserted and bad, it was transformed by the efforts of Pandavas and by Krishna. Krishna actually had Vishwakarma transform that whole land, and later on the same place became a beautiful kingdom. It still had a forest, but it was very beautiful land, beautiful palaces. And because Pandavas had such nice place and they were living there, all the Brahmins started to come, all the Kshatriyas were already there, they established nicely, all the Brahmins came. With Brahmins came, more economic activity started to happen there, so more Kshatriya Vaishyas came. There were more agriculture, cows, everything came, and then Shudras also came. So like this beautiful city was actually set up in a very short time. And then one time Krishna and the same place which was Khandaprasth actually transformed into Indraprasth, and that's why it was called Indraprasth. But during that time, once Krishna and Arjun, they were just sitting and relaxing, and one Brahman came. And this Brahman said, I'm very hungry, I need something. Said, okay, we'll fulfill whatever you want, we'll make arrangements. And Krishna and Arjun, they were just relaxing, sitting there. They said, so this Brahman said, actually, I need something very special. Said, what? The only way my appetite will actually improve is if I eat all these herbs which are there in this forest. So they said, okay, so what is the problem? He said, actually, I am not an ordinary person. I am Agni Dev. And I have got indigestion and I have to eat huge amounts of herbs. So how did you get indigestion? So it's interesting, but a king was doing a special type of yagya where he offered huge quantities of ghee, and Agnidev said, with all that, I've got some indigestion and I have to have these herbs. Now Krishna and Arjun, they were saying, you came as Brahman, we have given you a word, we'll do whatever we can. Who is stopping you from having these herbs? He said, actually, this forest has a lot of demons and they have some friendship with Indra. So these demons, whenever I go to have the herbs, Indra actually start pouring water because he's a rain god, right? So rain comes and with the water, the fire gets extinguished. So I'm not able to have all these herbs which I need to. So Krishna and Arjun, they said, okay, we have given you a word, we'll make arrangements. And Arjun, he became the person who he said, I will help you. And Krishna said, okay, I will become your charioteer. So Agni Dev at that time, he said, okay, and I will give you special weapons. So he asked Varun Dev to go to the bottom of the ocean and bring these special kind of, so he brought the Gandiva and the Rath for Arjun, and he brought a quiver in which the arrows will never get over. So like that, all these were given to Arjun. And then Krishna, he chose to become a chariot driver. He said, Arjun, you deal with it, I will be your charioteer. So that was first time when Krishna took that role, and Arjun and Krishna, they tag teamed. And at that time he had a very, very interesting fight, because this was a different kind of fight. In this particular situation, Arjun had to prevent rain to fall in the forest. So Arjun told Agni that you go ahead and you have all the herbs, whatever you like. And there are some demons there. But those demons, they have caused so much nonsense that they actually, even if they get killed in the fire, it's actually better. So Arjun and Krishna, they said, no problem, go ahead. So he went ahead, and when he went and the fire started in the forest, Arjun shot so many arrows, and he shot in such a way that the arrows actually covered the whole top of the forest, so that none of the rain could penetrate the arrows and go down. And he made a huge shield on top of the arrows. That was how skilled Arjun was. And then Arjun practically had to fight with Indra and the other demigods and the demons from down, and Arjun single-handedly defeated all of them. And the demigods, including Indra, were very pleased from Arjun. And even the demons, they were running here and there, some of them were getting killed. And one of the demon, Maya Danav, he came and he seek for protection from Arjun. And Arjun said that if you want to please me, then you please Krishna. So then he went to Krishna. Then Krishna said, if you want to please me, then please Arjun. So he said, okay. Then he went to, so basically, then both of them said, okay, you please Yudhishthir Maharaj, build a nice palace here, And at that time, Mayadanav, he had created that beautiful kind of palace where all the things were happening in a very mystical way. So later on, you may have seen when Duryodhan was invited, he goes there and he was thinking some places actually having all the water and swimming pool and stuff, but there was no water. People were able to walk on top of it. And then on another place, he thought it's all land, but it was actually having water, and he fell in that water, and that he felt as very insulting. So all those things happened because that was a mystic kind of a palace made by Mayadana. So at that time, Arjun had got this particular chariot, this particular rath. So that is the story behind how he gets it. Was it clear? Everybody got it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
very, very, very interesting theories, like story behind. Thank you.
Yeah, that was very powerful. Okay, so we'll go to the next shloka. It's actually a little long. We'll see how much we can cover. Panchajanyam Rishikesho. Panchajanyam
Panchajanyam Rishikesho
Rishikesho,
Devadattam Dhananjaya.
Devadatta
Devadattam
Dhananjaya
Dhananjaya,
Poundram Dadmau Mahashankham.
Pandam
Pondram Dadmo
Tatmo Mahasangam,
Mahashankham
Bhima Karma Vrakodara.
Bhima Karma
Bhimakarma
Vrakodara.
Vrakodara.
Okay, who will read the translation? Any volunteers?
I can read.
Yes, please.
Lord Krishna blew his conch shell called Panchajanya. Arjun blew his Dev. Sorry.
Devadatta.
Ha. Arjuna blew his the Devdatta, and Bhima, the voracious eater
Eater.
and performer of Herculean task, blew his terrific conch shell called Pondra.
Yes, thank you. So now every conch shell, they also had names. Like Krishna's conch shell, the name is Panchajanya. Arjuna's is Devadatta. So conch shell means Shankh. So different Shankh, they also have names. And Bhima, his Shankha is Poundra. And Bhima is described as voracious eater because he loved to eat. Bhima was very, very powerful, and for getting power, one has to eat. So Bhima was very much interested in eating, and very much he was liking when it comes to showing his strength and fighting. So we'll read the purport. Who would like to read the first paragraph of the purport? You want to continue?
Yes.
Yes.
Purport. Lord Krishna is referred to as Rishikesha in this verse because he is the owner of all senses. The living entities are part and parcel of him, and therefore the senses of the living entities are also part and parcel of his senses. The impersonalists cannot account for the senses of the living entities, and therefore they are always anxious to describe all living entities as senseless or impersonal. The Lord, situated in the hearts of all living entities, directs their senses, but he directs in terms of the surrender of the living entity, and in the case of a pure devotee, he directly controls the senses. Here on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Lord directly controls the transcendental senses of Arjuna, and thus his particular name of Rishikesha, Rishikesh. The Lord has different names according to his different activities. For example, his name is Madhusudan because he killed the demon of the name Madhu. His name is Govinda because he gives pleasure to the cows and to the senses. His name is Vasudev because he appeared as the son of Vasudeva. His name is Devaki Nandan because he accepted Devaki as his mother. His name is Yashoda Nandan because he awarded his childhood pastimes to Yashoda at Vrindavan. His name is Parth Sarthi because he worked as charioteer of his friend Arjuna. Similarly, his name is Rishikesh because he gave direction to Arjun on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Hare
Okay,
Krishna.
thank you, Hare Krishna. So here it is mentioned the importance of names. Different people have different names. Sometimes we have a meaning of the name also. Especially in India, we see we have names with meaning. In other countries, in US and others, you may not even have a meaning of the name. But either way, the meaning of the name may not necessarily indicate the qualities of the person. Somebody's name may be, uh, let's say, for example, even place. We say sometimes a place name may be Daryaganj, but there is no Darya there, right? So, similarly, people may have nice names, but they may not have that kind of a behavior, right? Um, and therefore, we see the difference between the name of people and the name of Krishna. Krishna's names, they are actually based on Krishna's behavior. And previously, even the name of the people used to be based upon their behavior. Like, for example, Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira means in any kind of yuddha, he is sthira, he is steady. And it doesn't mean just fighting, but yudh means also internal battle. He is very steady. Krishna, the word for Krishna used here is Rishikesh. Rishikesh means one who is the owner of the senses, and Krishna owns our senses and his senses both. We think we have our senses, right? But actually, Krishna is possessor of everything. And when we try to please Krishna and please his senses, then we actually get more pleasure, more happiness. Similarly, Krishna has so many other names other than Rishikesh, and we will see throughout the Bhagavad Gita, whatever name is most appropriate, Arjun will use that one to address Krishna. Sometimes he will use Madhusudan. What does it mean? Madhu is a demon who was killed by the Lord. Madhu and Ketava. So Madhu was killed by the Lord, so his name is Madhusudan. So Arjun will say, hey Madhusudan, means you killed Madhu, you are great, you can kill demons. I am getting this demoniac thought where I am actually thinking that I have to work opposite to dharma. It is like confusing me which one is dharma. So please clarify. Just like you killed that demon, kill this demon of doubt and confusion which is in me. Similarly, Krishna's name Govinda. Govinda means go is cow. Vind means one who gives pleasure to the cows. Go also means senses. And Govinda means one who gives pleasure to the senses. So Krishna can actually give pleasure to our senses also. So like that, there are so many names. Another name here which is mentioned is Vasudeva. So Vasudev is his father's name, and because of his father's name being Vasudev, when you add A in between, it becomes Vasudev. Like Pratha is the name of Arjun's mother, and then Arjun's name becomes Partha. Partha means the son of Pratha. So similarly, Krishna's name is Devaki Nandan, which means Nandan is son, Devaki's son, so Devaki Nandan. Yashoda's son, Yashoda Nandan. So like that, whatever activities Krishna does, Krishna gets the name, and those names which are associated with Krishna's devotees, they are more pleasing to Krishna. Just like if a child becomes successful and then famous, and then somebody says to the parents, oh, let's say there is a child and the child's name is Akshay, and then Akshay's parents, they get to know that Akshay has become very famous, and they go to visit him, and there everybody is saying, hey, these are Akshay's parents. So the parents feel very good that they are being recognized as their child's parents. So now their son is so famous that wherever they are going, they are being recognized in the name of the child. So the pleasure is there for the parents to be known by the name of the child. So similarly, Krishna feels pleasure when we say his name in connection with his devotees, because Krishna, he is very pleased by his devotees. So like this, there are unlimited names of Krishna, and Krishna likes to be addressed by those names which are in association with his devotees. So we'll read the last paragraph for today. Anybody wants to ask any question or make any comments before we go to the last part? Okay, we'll continue. So who will read the last paragraph? Anybody who has not read, who would like to read?
I can read, but
Please.
I'm reading on the phone, so
That's okay.
I'll try. Arjuna is referred to as Dhananjaya in this verse because he helped his elder brother in fetching wealth when it was required by the king to make expenditures for different sacrifices. Similarly, Bhima is known as
Vrakodara.
Vrakodara because he could eat as voraciously as he could perform Herculean tasks such as killing the demon Hidimba. So the particular types of conch shell, sorry, I missed the screen. It just went away somewhere. All right. Conch shell blown by the different personalities on the side of the Pandavas, beginning with the lords, were all very encouraging to the fighting soldiers. On the other side, there were no such credits, nor the presence of Lord Krishna, the supreme director, nor that of the goddess of fortune. So they were predestined to lose the battle. And that was the message announced by the sounds of the conch shells.
Thank you. Thank you for reading. So previously, Bhishma blew the conch shell and others blew, and then Arjun and Krishna, followed by Arjun and all the other Pandavas, they blew the conch shell, and by blowing of the conch shell, it was clear the way it was written in the Bhagavad Gita that how Krishna and our Pandavas, they are in transcendental position, they are in Divya position, everything associated with them is Divya, they are doing it for Dharma, they will be actually victorious. And specific names are used for specific personalities because it actually fits that situation the best. So we discussed how Krishna has his names. We discussed also about Yudhishthir. Similarly here, Dhananjay word is used for Arjun because Arjun was able to get so much dhan. Why was the dhan needed? For doing yagyas and sacrifices. So Yudhishthir Maharaj wanted to perform sacrifice, and all the Pandavas, they had to go and get actually yagyas, artha. So for doing that, they had to go make alliances with other kings. They also had to go and explore the natural resources and get from there. So Arjun was able to go to the north, and over the north he was able to discover and find by his skills and power. He was able to find so much of wealth in terms of jewels and golds, and the details are actually mentioned in other scriptures that how Arjun was able to get. That's why his name actually became Dhananjay. But they were using all these wealth for the right cause, for yagya, for actually sacrifices. And Bhishma, he was very very powerful, and he liked to eat. So that's Vrakodara is the name for that particular Bhima. Vrakodara is the appropriate name for him. So like that, different particular names are there. Now specifically here, killing of Hidimba is mentioned. So many of you may be knowing that when Pandavas, they were younger, long ago, with Mother Kunti and them, they had gone to Varna Vrata, or the Lakshagraha, that particular place. It was a palace built by Duryodhana's plan, and it was built by those materials which were very inflammable. They could catch fire very fast. Now we see fire can cause so much problem. I'm sure all of you are aware of what's happening in California. Many billions of dollars have actually gone, and people's life has got devastated. So Duryodhan, he was evil-minded. He was ready to kill the Pandavas, and he plotted so many different strategies. So he had also plotted how to kill them by having them go to a palace. And Dhritarashtra and the kingdom, they said, "Hey, why don't you go for a vacation and enjoy in that place? And there's a festival going on there." So Pandavas, they understood that dal mein kuch kala hai, something is there, why are they telling? But they were obedient. They said, "Sure, we'll go." So they went there, and there was an attempt to burn them, but they were able to escape. But when they escaped, they decided they will not go back to the kingdom, because there everybody's wanted to kill them. And they decided to stay in the forest thereafter. And in the forest, how they will stay? Bhima will stay awake the whole night. He will make sure that no wild animals or demons or anybody come there to disturb his brother and his mother. And Mother Kunti, with the 5 sons, she will take them different places. They will rest. They will make arrangements. They'll collect food. Somehow or the other, they'll live in the forest like that. So every night, Bhima was making sure that he's awake, and even if others are sleeping, he keeps an eye. So one night like that, they were resting, and there were demons. Hidimb and his sister, Hidimbi, or Hidimba, they both were nearby, and this Hidimb said to his sister, "Go and get me food. I want to eat some humans today." So she was just going, and then she saw these Pandavas. She didn't want to kill or eat all these humans or anything, trouble them. But at that time, she actually saw Bhima, and she's like, "Oh, he's so handsome. It'll be so nice if I marry him." And at that time, Bhima, he was thinking, "Hey, so this Hidimbi, she actually went there in a very beautiful look. Didn't go as a demon. She went there in a beautiful look." And Bhima was wondering, "What you are doing at night like this here in the forest, middle of forest?" And long story short, she mentioned that, "Hey, you guys should leave this place, because there could be danger here." And she basically finally revealed. And in the meantime, his brother also came, Hidimba, who's very powerful, huge. Bhima, he was not afraid at all. And Bhima understood that this particular demon, he was troubling, he was going to cause trouble to the Pandavas. He's not being so kind to his sister also. He said, "Okay, let me handle." And then Bhima was so powerful, he killed Hidimbi. So Hidimba was killed. Hidimbi, the sister, was actually alone now, and she requested Mother Kunti that, I'm alone in this forest. I don't have anyone to protect, and I like Bhima. If you feel appropriate, then I would like to marry him. And Bhima also liked her, and they got married like that. So this is how this particular pastime happened. But the point was that Bhima was very, very powerful. Okay, I think we'll stop here. Any questions, any comments, any points anybody would like to share?
I have a quick question.
Yes, please.
So what kind of sacrifices they used to have?
Yeah, so you may have heard of Ashwamedh Yagya or Rajasuya Yagya. Like that, there were different
Okay.
yagyas where they will
Yes, yeah.
invite huge amount of people, sages, saints. They will welcome them. There was special time of ingredients needing. There were so many different types of ghees and other things which were needed. So all
Oh,
this needed lots and lots of arrangements.
okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Granth Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we'll end here. Thank you very much for your time and for joining. Very grateful for each one of you. So we'll do it every week. On Sundays we'll do in Hindi, and today on Saturdays we do in English. So the same link, same time. Feel free to join every week. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna. Thank
Krishna, Hare
you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.